Welcome to the SFL Today. Breaking down all the action from a busy Week 4. Alongside Stephen Mullinex and Andy Hamilton, I am Cameron Irvine. We'll bring them on here in just a moment. Welcome into our SFL Fan Night studios here on Twitch.tv. Andy, the Stat Man. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing pretty good. Haven't left the chair for about 7 hours now, so it's good.
Sweet. Stephen Mullinex. You know what that's like, or have you been out and about today?
No, I actually have a life, Cam. So no need for a poop bucket over here.
Only took 2 minutes to say the word poop on SFL Fan Night tonight. That's awesome. Week number 4, continuing to increase the quality, one show at a time. We start today with a congratulations to a new team. Ryan Moats and the San Francisco Sharks. Wow, on the road. They go to Dallas and take down the Roughnecks 23-13 for San Francisco's first victory. The stats are there. San Francisco outscores Dallas 16-0 in the fourth quarter. Steven, let's get it out of the way. What'd you see out there?
Well, I saw a lot of positive things for my Roughnecks team. I mean, we moved the ball fairly well. We just couldn't take advantage of a lot of opportunities, and we had some really weird penalties that you just don't see very often. But that's not taking anything away from the Sharks. They have a really good team build that really fits us and matches us really well. And although we had control of the game through the first half, like you said, 16 points in the fourth quarter. We just kind of fell apart, and you know, all I can do is say congratulations to Ryan Moats and your first win here in the SFL. I'm sure the first of many. And for my players on my team, keep your heads up. A lot of positive things to build on, and you know, just kind of want to try to have a positive attitude here, Cam. As we're only 4 games in, lots of games to be played.
Kareem Abdillan-Jabbar in the chat says, I just woke up and missed the early games. Was there anything crazy? You're at the right place. This show is made exactly for you. It's just for you, Kareem. We're going to catch you all up here. Andy, San Francisco gets 79 rushing yards out of a star fullback and a generic halfback. Not too shabby on the road. You called the game. Hit a couple clutch kicks down the stretch, too.
Yeah, could have been worse. I think San Francisco, you know, after missing an early kick that would have, you know, made the game closer for a lot of it, those fourth quarter points really had to come into effect. Dallas just really couldn't score in the second half, for as troublesome as that was. Can't really fault the Roughnecks. I think a lot of times you hear owners complaining about penalties not getting called. Steven's hitting it right on the nose here. There were, I think, 3 penalties that were really pivotal in this game that did not go Dallas's way. A very close matchup between these two teams. It was actually really fun to watch.
So San Francisco gets their first win, and we'll see if Dallas can rebound next week. The Sharks improve to 1-3. Well, we stay in Texas, where the Houston Hyenas scored 10 points, only 3 on offense in Week 1. And then followed that up with a goose egg against Alaska in Week 2. And scored all 42 points today against San Antonio in the first half. They scored 82 points in 3 halves of play against their Texas rivals Dallas and San Antonio in back-to-back weeks. And Houston gets somewhat revenge on San Antonio for the Vaqueros beating Houston 55-0 last season. The Hyenas get 263 passing yards and 265 rushing yards, and Warren Murray has the best day a running back has had in Season 10. Andy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Damon Simeon picking up his 30th win all time as an owner. That actually moves him into the 10th spot in terms of wins for owners, right over the head of Stephen Mullinex, who said I had no life earlier. But Houston gets the job done today. Look at that, 528 total yards. I don't understand, like, I think San Antonio's really got to go back to the drawing board next time for that when they play Houston, because you didn't stop the run or the pass this time. You got to stop one of them at least. At least make it a little difficult. Good job to Houston getting their stuff in and then being able to put it on cruise control for the second half.
Stephen, after San Antonio won their first two games against Dallas on the road and San Francisco at home, they've now given up 76 points over the last 2 weeks to teams that made the playoffs last year. Should the Vaqueros be concerned?
I don't think so. I mean, I was definitely surprised by this outcome, especially since they were playing in San Antonio, and I really thought the Vaqueros were on the upswing this season, and I still think they are. I mean, you have these kind of games, not taking anything away against Houston, but you have games like this as an SFL owner. You understand that sometimes the fluky things happen. I'm honestly surprised that Houston was able to win so big in this game. They did the same to us in Dallas. I just thought San Antonio would put up a better effort than they did. Obviously, the numbers are there, but man, this one got away pretty early, and it's really shocking to me. I don't think if you're San Antonio, you overreact to this. I think you've seen a lot of positive things from your team, and this is just one of those games that just happened to get away from you. If there's one head scratcher for me, it's just the fact that it took place on their home turf.
Tulsa and Sioux Falls coming up. This is SFL Fan Night. The Sparrows and Desperados are both still undefeated, and it's rare that we get two undefeated teams on the schedule against one another in week number 4. Well, San Antonio's not the only ones doing the head scratching. The defending champions fall to 1-3 today. London takes the long trip to Mexico and gets the victory, 16-10. The Aztecs led 10-0 in this game before London outscored them 16-0 the rest of the way. The Knights also came alive late last week against Carolina, and the Knights have given up 13 points, 3 points, and 10 points in the last 3 weeks. The stats, London being 3-1, Mexico City being 1-3. Stephen, where are you focusing your attention on here through all that?
Well, we talked about it before the show that London's defense is just one of the best in the SFL. I mean, they've shown out and holding, the defending champions to 10 points and holding their monster running back to 78 yards. I mean, it's the London Knights have just come to play defensively, and I think that's something the league needs to take a hold of and realize that these guys are for real, and just a quality win here for the Knights.
Mexico City had 23 more plays than London did, 68 offensive plays, and they still couldn't manage to crack 10 points. Andy, that yards per play average not very good, and the Aztecs in a brutal Eastern Conference need to wake up quick.
Yeah, a tough Eastern Conference too. I mean, but I want to touch on expansion owners. At this point, you got one of them who's 3-1. Deion Hawkins, will have to see how he's doing tonight. Richard's still 2-2, a very good record, and now Ryan Moat's getting his first win. That's pretty impressive to me that these 4 owners can come in and really keep pace with a lot of these guys who have been doing this for multiple seasons on end. Heads up job by London to do what they did today against Mexico City, especially since they're coming off that championship. A lot to figure out in Mexico City, but I've said it a couple times. I think Ramos and Matt Wilson know what they're doing. There are a couple teams that now are looking at bad records that could do what we saw Vancouver do last season and kind of make their way to the playoffs, and I think this is one of those teams that could do it.
The Aztec fans turned on the team late. After the failed 4th down conversion, the boos were deafening in Estadio Azteca, which we have not heard for a very long time with that organization. I mean, it was apparent. I wouldn't mention it just because I was startled at at how frustrated the fans were with their defending champions. Well, if Mexico City fans are frustrated, Chicago fans are really frustrated. The Wildcats dropped to 0-4 today. They get swept by their rival, the St. Louis Gladiators, and Chicago Roughneck losses this season 17-13, 13-7, 16-13, and 17-16. The Wildcats playing phenomenal defense. They cannot get the offense rolling. And in their one red zone attempt today, which was late in the fourth quarter, they ran an out route that could not get to the pylon, and J. Calvin Kim could not muster a yard. St. Louis plays turnover-free ball. Andy, what do you think of this? You called the game.
Yeah, a very competitive game. I think you add 2 minutes to the clock, and this could be a different outcome. St. Louis just squeaks by Chicago. I was impressed coming into the week with what St. Louis had done, and I was kind of startled by how Chicago had started out. Heading out of the week, I'm almost flipped the other way. I'm more impressed by the way Chicago played the St. Louis team that I saw coming in. And I think it's only a matter of time before the Chicago team can start flipping around their season. I mean, you look, they have 226 yards through the air, too much on the ground for not enough gain. If you take away maybe half of or a third of those run plays and turn them into pass plays, Chicago wins this one easy.
Steven, St. Louis's offense has played very conservative so far this year, but pretty smart. Ethan Alexander, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks through the first 4 weeks of the season. Big part why St. Louis is at 3-1, but what do you think the biggest reason is?
Oh well, they're just making the critical play when they need to make the play. They're keeping the game close. They're trying to win the game of time of possession. They are a grinded out team. They're not a flashy team, but they just play solid defense and efficient offense, and you see the benefit for them. It may be close games for them for the most part, but they're making those clutch plays when they need to. And as for Chicago, I don't think we're seeing the chunk plays that we were used to seeing from them last season. And perhaps they are missing a key component in someone we'll see tonight, Cam, Deion Hawkins.
Yeah, that could be. Deion has taken his talents to Oklahoma. In Oklahoma today, the Oklahoma City Renegades pulled off maybe the stunner of the day, considering that both San Francisco and Dallas were at the bottom of the standings. The Red Devils at 2-1 go into Oklahoma to take on the 0-3 Renegades, and for the 4th straight week, Oklahoma City outgains their opponent. I don't think many people saw this upset coming, however. 4 sacks for OKC. The Renegades coming into the game had Deacon Nickens had been sacked, and I want to make sure that I have the stat correct. Deacon Nickens had been sacked 14 times. That was more than anybody else except for Mark Biddix, and that includes Mark Biddix's 4th game today. Deacon Nickens, in 3 games, sacked 14 times, was not sacked at all today. And the Renegades squeezed one out. Donk Bonkers had no touchdowns in the first 3 weeks, had 3 touchdowns today. Opening thoughts, Stephen.
Well, I think we saw a bit of a crack in the defensive shield for Indianapolis last week in Tulsa, where Deion Hawkins went off on them. Although they kept him in check for most of the game, there were some really big plays there. But let's don't kid ourselves. OKC has been a lot closer than their record shows, and they've been in each and every one of the games. They've done what they've needed to do in order to win those games. Again, just not getting the breaks that they certainly got today in a good, solid win for them.
Stephen James sounded like a man on a mission in his post-game presser after the crushing loss, or frustrating loss would probably be the better word, against Tulsa. But the team did not come out and light up the scoreboard as many might have anticipated. And with Oklahoma City getting slashed by St. Louis last week, I think a lot of people may have slept on this matchup. Were you one of them that thought Indy was going to go in and cruise?
I think so, yes. They didn't really show me anything that would made me worrisome in week 3 against Tulsa. I thought they were very much in that game and had control of it through the at least the first quarter of that game, and so no, they have all the weapons in order to win these matchups, and they had everything in place to win against OKC, and I can understand them going in with that mentality. But also, there's always that crazy factor of going and playing an away game, and if the ball doesn't go your way here or there, or there's a miss, like in my game, there's some calls that go against you. There's a lot more parity in this league than we might think.
Andy, what do you think?
I think, and I didn't get to see the game, so I'm kind of assuming what happened here, but it looks to me like Indianapolis tried to go pass heavy. Pass heavy to me is boom or bust, and today, they had some boom going up. I think at one point they were up 20-0, maybe. I could be wrong there because again, I was calling another game.
It was 20-14. They led most of the way.
Right, which is, that's kind of your boom there, and then you got the bust on the back end. It's an important thing, I think, to feel as if you could put 70 points onto your opponent. It's another thing to say that you're going to do it. My hats go off to the Oklahoma City players. You did your thing, and you proved that, no matter how impulsive a sentence can be about going 70 up on whoever you're playing, you got the job done today, and Indianapolis didn't. Victory for the Renegades.
Deacon Nickens with maybe the quote of the year after the game. He said, "It feels really good to have the devil under my shoe." The Deacon making things happen. That
only would have been better if they won on a Hail Mary.
yeah, that would have been something. 3 different teams blew double-digit leads today. If you go back, it was 10-0 Indy was up. It was 10-0 Mexico City was up over London before giving up the last 16 points, and then it was Stephen. Was it 10-0 or 13-0?
I think it was 10-0.
Yeah, 10-0 in Dallas as well, when San Francisco came back. No blown lead here, although Carolina did lead 7-0 over Queen City. But the Corsairs, in our final recap of the day before we head out to Tulsa to see the Desperados and Sparrows clash, Queen City took care of business today. 5 passing touchdowns from A.J. Caswell. Both teams passed a lot despite the success of their running backs in the game. Carolina just could not keep pace. A.J. Caswell threw for 5 passing touchdowns in a 38-17 victory over the Skyhawks. Queen City's 3-1 with their only loss to Tallahassee. Andy, your thoughts on the Corsairs rolling here?
Yeah, Corsairs are doing good. As to be expected, Eric Barkley's 61st all-time win. Cam, the next closest owner, only has 45 wins.
Wow.
That's a little bit of a margin of victory, I would say. Corsairs getting the job done per usual. I think this actually, as much as we can talk about the Corsairs kind of imposing their will on Carolina, I think this looks impressive for the Skyhawks to put up 17 on a team like Queen City. I think that bodes well for Carolina and what they're looking for the rest of the season. Hang your hat on that 17 points and kind of, figure out what you need to improve on and just keep getting better. But Carolina looks solid this season.
Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andy. I mean, Carolina's better than what their record shows, and they've been that way for multiple seasons. They just can't seem to get the lucky breaks at some points. But yeah, this game was all about par for the course for Queen City. They could do no wrong offensively. They could run, could pass, they could decide which they wanted to do and be successful at both. Honestly, it was deja vu because they did the same thing against us.
Week 4, top performers before we head out to Tulsa. Ahmad Chima for Houston. Listen to this stat line. 16 of 22, 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and basically a perfect quarterback rating, 152.1. Chima was one of 3 quarterbacks today that got a win that did not throw an interception. Houston's Warren Murray with the best running back performance in terms of yardage this season, the 3rd in 4 weeks to get over 200 yards, 21 carries, 257 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the same game. Queen City's Chris Curtis, 12 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns, was A.J. Caswell's favorite target today. He was unstoppable. London's Garrett Rowland Sr., 18 total tackles. If you remember, Slyn Shady had, I believe, the same number in week 1 to tie the record or get near the record. 2 passes defended and 1 tackle for loss. St. Louis's Nick Daggs, 11 total tackles, had a tackle for loss, forced a fumble, and had a pick 6 from 35 yards out. Andy, is your top performer of the day on here, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that Warren Murray gets my top performer of the day. When you look at the way that he carried the ball, 257 yards. I mean, he's sitting there 6 yards behind Chima, who threw the ball one more time than Murray carried it, and he has 2 touchdowns on the ground against San Antonio. He gets my turkey leg for the day.
How about you, Steven? You on the Murray train?
Yeah, I'm on the Murray train as well. 12.2 yards per carry, an amazing stat to average. But just to give a little love, if I could give a little defensive love to Daggs there. Anytime that you can have that kind of a stat line on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you're an absolute game changer. Charles Ball-esque.
Yeah, definitely not Chris Curtis, though. I mean, that's
No, Chris, why is he even on that list?
I'm sure Tallahassee prided receivers are saying, hello, we did play last night and smoked Curtis's numbers. But
what? That was not a nightmare?
it's the SFL today, and we're talking about Sunday afternoon. So, week 4 is nearly in the books. 2 primetime games left. Atlanta, Alaska tomorrow night in the Storm versus Swarm Bowl, and I can't wait to hear how many times that gets screwed up. But first, Tulsa and Sioux Falls from Greenwood District Stadium. Andy, get back behind the glass.
Yep, back into my cage.
Steven, let's go.
Let's do it.
Tulsa, Sioux Falls, next.